With gas prices the way they are, I've been on the hunt for a commuter bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
All I want is a road bike that I can lock up somewhere, and if it gets stolen, it's not the end of the world.
Well, you live in Eugene, so it will get stolen.
Exactly. So I'm looking to spend, think under $500 just to get a bike that we can ride out to like a restaurant, or I can ride to work because I work like maybe 20 minutes away from here. The problem is I'm 6 feet tall, and it's fucking impossible to find a bike that's my height.
Not just 6 feet tall. You're 6'2".
I'm 6'2". When I ordered my mountain bike, I said 3 options I needed to find because all the orders kept getting canceled. So I've been on Craigslist like a madman the last couple of days just trying to find a bike. And I find a bike, I'm like, that's fucking cool. I really want to buy that one. And it's like, oh, it's for someone who's fucking 5 feet tall, which is just not going to work. It's going to be like
the last time I saw Tyler cry in our lives was when he was like, I want to say like 17 or 18. And he comes into my room and sheds one single tear. And he says, I can't be an astronaut anymore. The day he went over 6 feet.
Yeah, it's because I'm too tall. Negating what my grades were, they were not astronaut grades. I was too fucking
you can
tall to be
change
an
your
astronaut.
grades. You can't fucking shrink yourself.
Mm-hmm. I could, but then, yeah. Anyway, so it's bullshit. So to express my irritation and anger, I have this to sit next to me all day.
Well,
I love that, man. I want that for my trailer.
And with that, I'll go ahead and welcome you all to the Tire Preference Podcast.
Welcome.
I'm Jake,
Yay.
sitting here with Tyler and Dave. And real quick, we're going to do a quick check-in with the Nomad Dave. Dave, where are you at right now? Where you at?
I am in southwestern Utah, outside a little town called Kanab, Kanab. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but that's what I'm doing. Kanab.
Kanab.
Yep.
Kanab, if you don't like
Out amongst the mesas or whatever they are.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Are you near Skinwalker
Cowboy
Ranch?
country. I don't know. Where's Skinwalker Ranch?
That's like north central,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
No.
I'm
But
like
you're
at
in
the
You're too close.
I'm
Get
at the
some
border
sage.
of Arizona and Nevada.
Yeah.
Surround your entire camper with salt, a big circle of salt,
Oh, already done.
and get
son.
some sage.
And don't dig. If I've learned anything from the TV show Jake
man.
told me about, you're not allowed to dig.
You're not allowed to dig.
You're not allowed to dig.
And we are the Tire Preference Podcast. We're here. We're going to talk. So we're doing a bit of a newbie episode. It's there wasn't a race this week, which is okay, I guess. But we're going to talk about some of the things that maybe someone who's new to Formula One might not know. There is so much to the sport. We can't cover it all in one episode, and we're not going to do a huge series on it. So we'll touch on it here and there, throw something in, but we decided to do a big chunk of it this time. But before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about the news.
The news.
And I think the top of everyone's the top
is
one.
Lewis Hamilton experienced speed for the first time this season. He was really excited about it. He went skydiving in Dubai. That's it.
It's newsworthy.
He finally reached terminal velocity.
Yeah,
Good for him.
Much
Good for him.
And maybe that'll inspire him to push the pedal down a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, a little harder, like
Like a racing driver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, say something to his engineers about it instead of being like, or whatever. I'm sure he's saying stuff behind the scenes, but it's still really funny. You just be like, see Lewis Hamilton showing up to the track and not doing well, and just be like, "What happened?"
Can you imagine if it was one of those things where
That's
he
Christian, by the way.
I know. I didn't
can
see her
still
go out
see
the
her.
door the first time. I saw her go out the back door, and then she showed up in the other door.
It's much funnier because she didn't see this, but you can most definitely see her all the way across.
So we talk about Lewis Hamilton. Can you imagine how funny it would be? Maybe not funny. I mean, I know a lot of people have a problem with this, but whatever. It's still funny because funny shit's funny. But he has some like he depressed, ate just ice cream and cookies in the off season because he lost. And they're like, he's like, oh, the car's really slow. And like, how do we tell him that he's too fat for the car?
Yeah. You remember in like 2018 when Will Smith was at the last race of the season and he had Lewis Hamilton's race suit on, it was much tighter on him. That's like what Hamilton's race suit looks like now. He
Got
just
another-
all like
Got an extra 30 pounds of ice cream.
He's gonna lay on his
Yeah.
back to get the zipper all the way up.
It's like, God, the cars are so much smaller. This
It's so
shouldn't
slow.
happen.
It's
And
tight in
just,
here.
like, there's someone that's just like kicking him, like just trying to like jam his now like bloated body into the race car.
Is there any way we could put syrup in the drink tube?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to the news.
That's all you hear, just Lewis Hamilton heavy breathing into the microphone. The whole
That's why they
race.
don't do his radio calls
Tires are no
anymore.
good, man.
Yeah, they just they're like, Lewis, you sound out of breath. You're at the start finish line. Like you did the
Must have been
what is it, the formation lap?
Right, it's just really hot, man. It's like
Yeah.
it's not. It's cold.
All right, so the news. Let's dive on into it, eh?
Well, the big one, besides Lewis Hamilton experiencing speed for the first time, and we're not talking about we're not talking on the methy side, is Zell's a new track next year for Formula One.
Woohoo. That brings the
Exciting.
grand total of US GPs in 2023 to
3. That's most of
Three
any
GPs.
country. One
Can
single
we get a
event, right?
quick USA?
It's
USA.
USA. USA.
USA. So
I
yeah,
just love that Formula One was started in like England, I think.
Yeah, it was
like,
England.
That's
Yeah, well,
traditionally been
when your
the
when your
home.
country's the size of like Missouri and Illinois combined,
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
well, and we've already talked about how much that country sucks. Go check
And
our first
so-
podcast.
And
I don't think we ever.
now-
Did we air that one?
That was on. Yeah, that was the
I guess we
the
did.
don't
Austin
think we
Martin
did.
deep
I
dive
don't
when I
think-
said that the British have to chew wood to keep their teeth
Probably
short.
that's probably what's
Oh,
our
yeah,
lack
okay.
of our lack of subscribers.
Yeah, no shit.
We've
We love
pissed off the whole country of
we
Great
love the
Yeah.
English.
Britain or whatever.
We will make fun of everyone eventually. Just you guys came up first. Sorry.
Yeah, we make fun of ourselves
Yes.
enough. Everyone
Yeah.
else. can do it every
You
once in a
might be
while.
a reoccurring theme of people to make up for your kind of low hanging fruit. So
I mean, we're putting
Um,
ourselves on like a video thing. If you notice, like my forehead's almost the same color as my off gray wall behind me. You're
Oh,
looking
dude,
at that. I'm not
I'm
doing
wearing-
very much better.
I'm wearing a
I
hat
mean, I'm
today
not
because I got
cutting my
some
teeth on
serious zits happening on my balding head today. So
So you had to wear the
Jeez.
hat.
I had to wear the hat. Otherwise,
There's a guy-
yeah.
Dave's got a widow's peak of zits just coming down.
There's a guy at work he's balding and he's got like no top hair, but it's still growing on the sides pretty good. He's like, I don't know, 36. And there was a guy in the store that had the same hair pattern as him. And he's like, that's what I look like without a hat. And I just got my hair cut. So I still got the mohawk going. And I said, I have the opposite problem. And he goes, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
real quick,
yeah,
let's everyone.
let's talk
before we get
about
in the news.
Vegas. Yeah, Vegas.
Folks, Vegas.
Oh,
is
yeah.
synonymous with
Let's talk
consumption
about
and
more
partying.
current affairs.
What's everyone drinking? I'll start it off.
Oh,
I got
yes,
the
yeah, yeah.
fresh squeezed IPA from Deschutes.
That's a good one. I've
This
had that a
thing-
couple times.
I have too. They used to sell them in
Yeah.
cans. What are they,
Does
like
come-
19-ounce cans?
Yeah, this thing dangles at 6.4 ABVs and 60 IBUs.
Ooh, I'll go next.
Solid.
I'm in the middle
Solid.
of my screen. I have the Elysian Skullrook. I don't know how the fuck you pronounce that, but whatever. It's a Nordic style pale ale, which I think doesn't actually exist. They just made it up because what the fuck not? This is a session beer, so it's only hitting at 4.9%.
Ooh,
And after that, I got a
that's-
couple of silver bullets I'll be sipping on.
They make it that way so you can drink a few of those when it's constantly nighttime there, and then you just don't
Right.
drink yourself into the ground.
Well,
no
and,
shit.
and Jake, speaking of silver bullet,
Yeah, you don't want
Nice.
to keep a couple of
Got
those
'em
around
again.
if the skinwalkers show
Yeah.
up.
well, you
Yeah.
know, it's Southern Utah. The beer selection is quite slim with the Mormons in charge. So lucky
Right,
it has
right.
the 5%. Well, fuck. Does it even
I
say
remember
what does Coors
it
have?
was like Coors is like, it's probably around the 5s, 5.2, 5.3, something like that.
Yeah, something like
But
that.
I remember when Mallory and I went snowboarding in Utah like in 2016, 2015, something like that. It was like right before I moved out here. And we were in Salt Lake City for St. Patrick's Day. And man, there's this one beer there called Polygamy. It's a stout or a porter. And there was a float for it in the parade. And everyone was freaking the fuck out. Like they were like, "Fuck yeah, Polygamy porter! Like this is the best thing ever." And I tasted it, and it was hot fucking garbage. It tasted like, it was so bland. The only way I can describe the flavor is mouth. It tasted like mouth.
Oh,
Just
gross.
tasted like your
Apparently,
mouth tastes all the time.
a lot of the beers and such distributed in Utah are dulled down.
Yeah, I'd say
they
so.
don't get the full
Yeah.
ABV that
Now-
most beers outside the state get.
You can in Utah get the full ABV, but you have to have it at the brewery, and you cannot take it with you.
Well, see, I got these Coors, which are full, but they're Coors, so it's not like they're fucking
Yeah.
7%ers,
Let's not-
8%ers.
We're just blown away with
Yeah.
Dave's beer selection over there.
Well, I was hoping to get something cool. They had these weird IPAs in a can that I just didn't
Mhm.
trust, so I didn't get them.
Right.
Dave, you do have something cool. You have something as cool and as refreshing as the Rockies.
That's true.
True.
I did make a little joke about using them against the Skinwalker, and then I had this really funny like split second image of like you actually using one of those cans to kill a Skinwalker because they're a silver bullet, but just like you're like on them like a bat, like your feet are on their shoulders, and you're like got one hand behind their head, and you're using your other hand to shove the can like in their throat. It's just this fucking mythical creatures choking to death on your Coors can.
One of our fans out there, I want to see that in some fan art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Draw Dave killing a Skinwalker with a silver bullet.
Yeah, Dave destroying us. But it's just
You know what?
Cyber,
If
it's just a
anyone,
cyber goth and Dave's just assaulting someone.
Dave, it's Halloween. That's just a regular deer.
Dave killed the guy. Jesus.
You know, and if the design's cool enough and you're okay with it, we'll put it on our t-shirt. We'll sell it as a t-shirt. Dave killing a
Yeah.
Skinwalker with
There
a
we
silver
go.
bullet.
So
All right.
as far as I know, we have one graphic designer that listens to this show, and Em, we're talking to you.
Get
Tell
on
her
it.
we need a logo.
Yeah, we need some stuff.
Em, give us a
Yeah.
logo. Anyway,
Anyhow.
On to the news.
we've been trying to talk about the news for like a fucking half hour now. So let's talk about
Oh,
Las
yeah.
Vegas. Las Vegas it's on the calendar.
It's
next
coming.
year.
2023.
Yep, it's gonna be a pretty
And-
long track. I think it's almost 4 miles long with 3 straights.
Yeah, it's like
And
3.6 or something. Yeah.
One of the straits is the
Down the strip.
iconic Las Vegas Strip.
Oh, it's gonna
That's
go right
gonna be
down in
fucking
front of the
amazing.
Bellagio, right in front of the fountains.
I guarantee.
I'm curious how
you
they're
that-
gonna shut that down for a weekend.
It's
Oh,
fucking
they're
Vegas.
just gonna shut it down for a weekend.
They're just gonna shut it down.
Vegas.
It's Las Vegas.
I guarantee you.
Most people
it's-
walking anyway. Who wants to drive the strip?
Being that it's April of 2022, I bet. Excuse me. I bet you can't get a hotel on the strip for that weekend right now. Like
No,
that would be
it's already booked
off.
up.
Because
Oh yeah.
it goes by all the hotels. So like
Yeah.
even if you had like a room, a strip facing room in like Planet Hollywood, like
Thousands per night.
that would be so sick to like be able to see the track, but then also have a room where you could watch
But
it.
it also
Right.
sucks in Vegas. There's no balconies, so you
No,
just
right.
gotta watch out
Right.
your glass window.
Yeah, that's because
Yeah,
they
you
want people
just hear-
jumping off of them when they
You
lose
You hear
everything.
the muffled sounds of race cars going by, and you see it at like a little corner, like no.
Let's say I do have a bonus on the Vegas race is that the wife and I are trying to get tickets, and we have a friend that lives just outside of Vegas, and
Ooh,
cut that cost in half by not having to get a hotel room.
that'd be
I think
awesome.
it's feasible. We just got to hope we're in the Southwest area that time of year next year.
I
Yeah, well,
don't
it's gonna be a
know.
really interesting weekend too because they're not racing on Sunday. They're
No,
racing on
yeah.
Saturday. And if
Saturday
you're-
night.
if
Saturday
you're-
night.
Yeah,
race.
10 p.m. is when the race starts.
Which- I originally thought was because it would allow people, back in Europe and Asia and
mhm.
Africa, whoever else wants to watch, give it a better time for them to watch, like during the day or something, instead of like in the middle of the night.
Right.
I think
but
some places will end up
really-
getting to see it like
Well, really, I mean, money is what drove the
Money
Saturday
is,
night.
that's why it's
Money,
happening on
100%,
Saturday
yeah.
because people aren't gambling on Sunday. They're going home. On
Yeah.
Saturdays, they're still willing to put their house on the line. So,
And they have all those cool signs like near all the cash machines that like, when is it not a game anymore?
right.
It's like, damn it, F1 starts in an hour. I could win my house back before they start.
I'm type O blood. Can you take a kidney?
Yeah.
I can literally go with anyone.
Yeah. I'm
So,
gonna
yeah,
bet it all on him.
The circuit looks fast as shit.
Mm-hmm.
You got a
3
very
straights.
long, slightly curving straight down the strip, and then you've got the straight going up from the strip, which direction I don't know, but you got that good strip. How many DRS zones do you think are going to be on this track?
If there's 3 straightaways, I bet at least 3 of them.
Bless you.
I bet there's going to be 3.
All 3 of those big straights on there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Or at least a part of that big. I mean, that big long straight is got to be what, a mile on its own. That's a good straight.
That's
slight curving straight, but
yeah. I'm basing this on being in Las Vegas and being intoxicated and walking down the strip, and it feels like a very long way.
It's like a quarter mile or more between each casino. So it's like you go out of one casino and you got about a half-mile walk till you get to the next casino.
Right.
So it's a long. Yeah, I've been to Vegas a few times and walked that strip. It's long. It's big.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff there.
I think it'd be cool if they won. What's that one? Was it Fremont or whatever that's got the lights?
Oh yeah, Fremont Street.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
if
they got the covered lights, but that's like got a bunch of shit in the middle. It's a pedestrian thing. They'd have to
bulldozer.
Yeah, there you go.
It is.
But that's also
a
quite a ways from the strip itself. That's old. That's old Las Vegas.
Just make it a big long track.
It'd be a really long track. It'd be like an 8-mile long track if they went from the
big long
strip down to Fremont.
This race is 15 laps because the track's 10 miles long.
Make it a point-to-point race. That'd be kind of weird.
There's 2 different pit lanes or 2 different pit zones just in case. Could you imagine missing the pit lane and being stuck behind a virtual safety car, and then like you have to, the track's 10 fucking miles long.
You're doing 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the Vegas GP coming up 2023, which is exciting as shit. Can't wait to see it.
It's on a 3-year contract,
and it's not the first time F1 has gone to Vegas.
No, it's not.
No,
the last time I heard was a huge failure.
Yeah, back in the 80s when they raced it. I think it was in the parking lot of the MGM Grand or something like that. This is back when
they did it in the parking lot.
Yeah, kind of like they're doing in Miami this year.
Which, like, I have to imagine
I'm interested in seeing that.
There was people walking around Vegas that just thought they were go-karts because like I don't think there was a huge like US F1 following back in the 80s.
No, I think the whole thing with Drive to Survive really helped the American fanship of
definitely
F1 for
like
sure.
Having, like the majority, I don't know who the name of the person is the majority shareholder, but the majority shareholder in F1 as a brand is a guy from the US.
Sweet.
So between that and the popularity of the Netflix show, I'm really not all that surprised that we're going to have 3 US GPs in 2023 because I think Miami
it makes 5 North American GPs, right? With Canada and
Mexico.
Yeah. Which is in North America. Go look at a fucking map.
That's what I said. North America.
I'm telling that to our fans that go, Mexico ain't in the North America.
Well, on the continents, yes, it is. If you want to say it's Central America, okay, but it's still on the continents. It's on the North American continent.
Yeah,
they're North Americans. Just like white people in Morocco are Africans.
Yeah. Technically,
Egyptians are
Elon
African.
Musk is an African American.
Right.
Not technically, he is an African American.
Oh yeah, he's from like South Africa or something, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Nigeria, actually.
Oh, okay.
No,
he's South Africa.
He's not.
Oh,
Nigeria.
All right. Moving on.
All right.
As far as 2023 goes with the Vegas race, it's too early to tell. It's going to be in November, so it'll be a good ways into the season. Probably like towards the end of the season, I think. So by then, like, it's just going to be, I think it's going to be really exciting no matter what, because everyone will have had a year in the cars, and then you will have, like, on top of that, a second, most of a year to figure stuff out.
Right.
So I just don't know who's going to be on top. But when I saw Vegas, when I saw it popped up, originally they had, like, thrown the news out there that they were racing in Vegas. And I was like, it has to be a night race. There is no other way to race in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And then it pops up as a night race. I was like, that's fantastic. I was super pumped.
Neon City, absolutely. There's no way other to do a race in Las Vegas other than under the lights.
And that's going to be like when they race in Texas, like, it's, when you think of, like, the United States, like, Texas comes to mind, right? It's like there's barbecue and food, and it's a huge music city, and people love it. Like, all the drivers love being there, and Danny Ricciardo especially. And people just
he's from, like, Texas is a country.
Yeah, he's
Australia,
from Texas in the southern hemisphere.
Right,
yeah.
Second Texas.
Yeah.
I think that racing in Vegas is going to bring an equal amount of excitement. I mean, Vegas is synonymous. It's a world. I mean, people, like, you walk around Vegas, you see people from all over the world there.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get
to
the meat of the episode, which is going to be, real quick before we get to that, Vettel is cleared to race in Australia. So yay, he's coming back.
Four-time world champion, back from COVID.
Right. Killing it. Golf clap. Anyway, so let's get to the meat of it. This episode is a bit of a newbie episode for the people that don't know too much about Formula One. Can't remember if I said this at the top because we've been talking about a lot, we've bullshitting a lot, but we're not going to do a big series on this. This is just going to be for off weeks, or we'll drop a fact in there every once in a while. We just want to bring everyone up to speed and not a boring fall asleep at the wheel kind of way. So Dave's gonna be shooting some questions toward Tyler and I. We've been doing a little bit of research on newbie stuff you noticed, and we're gonna go from there. So sit back, enjoy, and prepare to become learned in the basics of F1.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So as you know, I am a new fan. This is my second actual full season of watching F1 and being a fan and paying attention and whatnot. And my wife, she's just started watching races with me this season. So we both had some questions, that we wanted answered. And here we go. Here's number one.
What's the wrong people to ask?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, you guys have more knowledge than I would ever dream to want or, have. So, all right. Question number one. What is DRS and what are the rules surrounding it? And
all right, well,
strategy wise, why do they use it?
I have some information on this. But first off, and this wasn't a question that you had down, but it's a question I get asked a lot, especially from people that don't watch the sport. What's Formula One mean? Is it the engines they use? Is it the type of fuel they use? And I have the answer to that. It's neither one of those. When the FIA was created in 1947 after the war, they started making, and that the FIA is like the world governing body for European racing. It's the Federation Internationale des Automotive or something like that. And they were just making, like, they were shooting racings off like they were 17 years old and their parents in their bedroom with the laptop on their sweaty thighs, just cranking them out. And one of them, the first one so F1 wasn't originally called Formula One, it was called Formula A, but really soon they changed it to Formula One. And they just
sounds a lot better. Formula One.
Formula
FA just doesn't sound as cool.
FA.
Yeah.
So that's how it got it. It's got nothing to do with the type of engines they use. It's got nothing to do with the fuel they use or anything like that. It is just, they just said, we're going to create this open wheel racing division called Formula A. It's the best one. So all the rich people go there.
Formula A. I feel like Formula One sounds better.
Right.
Okay, so on to the first question.
Yes, DRS. So
DRS.
DRS, what is it? Well, basically, it's a DRS stands for drag reduction system. The F1 cars make a mass amount of power, but they never really reach their top speed due to the titanic amount of downforce from the aerodynamics, which helps them, go through the turns a lot quicker. The more downforce they have, or and you achieve that with the aerodynamic package. So you see the spoiler in the back and the front. They work the same way an airplane wing does, just flipped upside down, and it sucks the car to the ground. Excuse me. So what the DRS does basically is it decisively reduces the drag or the amount of downforce, allowing the car to go faster. It achieves this by opening the rear wing. The opening is no larger than 85 millimeters or 3.3 inches if you're nasty. This whole
you hear that, Mercedes?
What's that? Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah,
Mercedes.
You hear that, Mercedes?
Yeah. So they got in trouble because they were 0.2 millimeters over, and that's how 0.2.
That's like a human hair.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And but I mean, if you think about it, like that point, like whatever measurement is, when you're talking about like a car going 200 miles an hour down a straightaway, it could like make a sizable enough difference that they would have an advantage.
Yeah, 100%. And it was enough of a difference for the FIA to go fix it. So
yeah.
Man, I don't know what's going on with me right now. All right, so it gives, so the hole is open manually on the steering wheel of the race car, and it gives the cars, I think like a 10 to 15 kilometer advantage, or what would that be, like 9 to 11 miles per hour? If you're nasty.
It's substantial on a straightaway when you get a tow.
Oh, for sure.
You can see the difference too, and like you can even on like the TV broadcast, you can see the flap come open, and then all of a sudden a car starts gaining on another car a little bit more. Like it's enough of a difference to notice it. To back up to what you were saying with like it's a button on the steering wheel, I've always wondered, like, does every driver just hold the button down and there's something in the car that goes, you were a second away and the flap comes open? Or like, do they prepare you and they go like, Max, you have DRS on the straightaway, and then you can hit the button? Or is everyone just going like, I have it, and then like hoping for the best?
Well, we'll get to it. I actually have the answer to that. So when do you get to use the fun button on the steering wheel? Well, after 2 racing laps, after the lights go out or the safety car goes back in. So when the start of the race happens, you have to do 2 full racing laps before you get DRS. So if you do 1 racing lap and then there's a major accident that happens, like in Britain last year, you don't get DRS until after the safety car, until 2 laps after the safety car stops. So, or 2 laps after they restart the race, which they had to do. So yeah, so then the DRS is enabled after those 2 laps. You can only use it if the car in front of you is less than a second ahead. Now, this car that's ahead of you can either be 1 position ahead of you. So if you're in 4th place, it could be the guy in 3rd place, or it can be a car that's already been lapped. But as long as you're 1 second behind, under 1 second behind it, you get DRS.
See, I thought it was any car that was in front of you. As long as you were within a second, you got DRS.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, yeah. So even if it was a lapped car, or
even if it's a lapped car, you still get DRS.
Any car at all.
Any car that's ahead of you, you get DRS.
Oh, okay. Then I misunderstood what you're talking about. Okay.
There's also to determine that it's not like there's a before each DRS zone.
There's a
on the track.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm getting to it.
I was going to say there's a detection zone that they go through. So there's a specific spot on each track before each DRS zone that if they detect you less than a second before then you have it on the next straightaway.
Yeah. And actually, repeating exactly what Tyler says, there's a detection zone before all DRS zones, and you have to be within a second during or through that zone.
Detection zone.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you hit that zone, you get the DRS, but then fall more than a second behind them before you hit the DRS zone proper, you still get the DRS advantage because you were in that detection zone.
As long as you get it in the detection zone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And that's usually what, so many meters before the DRS zone itself?
Yeah, I don't remember how much. I didn't look that
now
up.
Is that just a line, or is that like a spot that they have to stay with? You know what I mean? Like, is it just once they cross a line and they're within that 1 second, they get DRS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The zone. Well, there's actually a spot on the track. It's not just a hard line. It's like an area, but it's not very big. It's the DRS detection zone and then the DRS zone.
Gotcha.
All
right.
So DRS, I'm not done.
Oh, keep going. Sorry.
DRS was introduced in the 2011 season to help make the sport, more exciting by making racing closer and battles happen more often.
I think it did a good job of that.
They did. They use it. They love it. People hated it because anytime you change anything in Formula One, everyone's like, "That's fucking stupid. I hate it," but then everyone ends up loving it. So
I love that it adds a layer.
It does. It adds an extra layer. It's more strategy. And we saw just how much strategy can be used with the DRS in the first race
and the second race.
Yeah, and the second race.
Yeah. And you might have a car you might have the disadvantage in straight line speed. Like we've talked about, like Mercedes dominating like the last 8 years of the sport. Like that was what a lot of the teams were using to bring the fight, was having DRS on the straightaways.
Yep.
To get past Mercedes.
And now to see two drivers lock up on a turn to see who goes first into that corner. It makes it so fascinating to watch.
It does. So it makes the battles happen more often. And so the driver can decide if they want to open it or not. Although I don't know why you wouldn't, unless you're Leclerc behind Verstappen on the home straight of Melbourne, because there's another DRS zone right after the straight. The DRS wing automatically closes when the driver hits the brake after activating it. Just a few more things than DRS is not available if it rains.
See, I thought it actually like shut itself once it crossed a certain point. So
it
it's
stays
when they
open
hit the
until they
brakes.
hit the brakes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so to answer what Tyler asked earlier, when you pass the DRS zone, you get a little alert on your steering wheel HUD, and it says you are DRS go, and then you hit the button to activate it, and then it will shut itself off when
you hit the brakes.
Yep. And also it opens from the bottom out, so if it were to malfunction or fail, it would fall where it's supposed to be
down.
Yeah.
So you'd have the downforce, you just wouldn't have the DRS anymore.
Exactly. If it opened from like the top down and it broke, it would just stay down, but it's
Yeah. Okay.
I always wondered how like the DRS works. I'm glad you explained it, because I was a little confused on it. I always guessed that like when they get you a straightaway, it was like you were playing Hydro Thunder, like the bowling alley or something like that. You had the turbo button and you're just fucking furiously pressing it.
Well, cool, man. That answered a lot of questions that I had there, Jake. Thank you.
The last thing I wanted to say about it was people might notice if they're watching the whole weekend is when you're doing practice or quali, you get
DRS zones,
use of the DRS
whenever
zones.
they hit the zones. Yeah.
As soon as you hit it, you can use it. You don't have to worry about the car being in front of you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so on to our next question then, I guess. Hey,
I can't wait to hear it.
Oh, me neither. So
you're the one that has it.
I've noticed. I've noticed after races that drivers weigh themselves. Why is it that drivers get weighed before and after GPs?
I will take this one. So drivers weigh themselves before and after because the cars weigh a certain weight, and the driver's weight is usually subtracted from that, or at least calculated as part of it. In 2019, they did a new rule change where like the driver, his gear, and his cockpit had to weigh at least 80 kilograms. And so
how many stones is that?
13 stone.
Yeah, 13
I don't fucking
stone.
know.
I'm not entirely certain. But prior to that, there was really no restriction on like how light the driver could be, which really the lighter the driver was, the faster the car could go because there was less weight in it, right?
Yeah,
But
obviously.
it was really a disadvantage for bigger drivers like Valtteri Bottas or Nico Hulkenberg, who would be cutting weight to the point of, there was like a news story that I was reading with Valtteri Bottas, and he's like, yeah, once the new weight stipulations came in, I wasn't getting as sick as I usually do because I think that they were getting to the point of being a little unhealthy.
Yeah.
So because there's a minimum weight that they have to weigh, if you're a lighter driver, like let's say Valtteri Bottas versus
Yuki
like
Tsunoda.
a string bean, Yuki Tsunoda or Danny Ricciardo, just doing a side-by-side comparison.
Right.
Because there's a minimum that the driver has to weigh, they then have to add ballast or weight to the driver's seat. So to make up the difference, because it has to come in at a minimum weight. I don't think there's a maximum, but why would you want to? I don't know if you'd want to be like the heaviest F1 driver. You know?
Yeah.
So you can be an F1 driver that gets that pizza and beer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Lewis Hamilton this season, like we were talking about at the top of the episode. So if there's like doing the side-by-side comparison, like if there was a 5 kilogram difference between Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo, they would have to add 5 kilograms to Daniel Ricciardo's seat, so everyone kind of weighs the same, at least a minimum. And then they're also just keeping track, like health-wise, because these guys will lose like 2 to 4 kilograms in a race.
Of sweat and
just in sweat because it's really hot in the cockpit, and
especially in Malaysia.
Some of those places they're racing, like it's sweltering. The track temperature is 90 degrees, and
fucking brick ovens.
Yeah, it's not like they're putting air conditioning systems in these cockpits or anything like that.
No.
So that's why the weigh at the start and the end of each race is to kind of make sure that everyone is A, healthy, and B, meeting the minimum requirements with car weight and stuff. So that's why you see like they're not just weighing the driver at the end of the race. All the drivers are like holding like
their helmets and their neck brace. Yeah. So I noticed that, and I was like, why do they do that? And I'm glad I asked that. Good answer.
They probably also use it to calculate fuel, because they don't measure fuel by volume; they measure it by weight in Formula One.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with it too.
Could be.
I would think so, because I think that would just, from a standpoint of failing a lot of science classes, I think that would be the easiest way to calculate like however much fuel is left.
All right. Well, is that all about the weight? You got anything else to add to that?
That's all I got for the weight. That's really what I could come up with. I'm sure there was in one of the news stories I looked over, there was a better breakdown of like all the rules exactly when it comes to weight and what part has to weigh this much. But I think for us and our audience,
that's
the layman getting into F1, that's just what they're doing.
What we need.
That was good. Hey, it explained it to me, and that's perfect. That's what we were asking for.
All right. What's next on the list?
On the list. Let's see what we got next. Okay, this is one you're bound to see in a race. The flags. You might see a double yellow. You might see a yellow flag out there. You might see a green flag out there, a blue. What are all these flags mean?
Well, I got the answer to that. I got a little bit of a flag breakdown, if you will.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Let's see. So, flags and what they mean. So this flag is used as much as the green flag, and more than the checkered flag. It is the yellow flag. Now, the yellow flag, there's two different kinds you can see. Basically, if anything happens on the track that's not racing, like a dead car or a crash, they'll wave a yellow flag, and that means the cars have to slow down and there's no passing allowed. Now, if it's a bad accident, they'll
let them out. Don't silence them.
What?
The
burps. I just don't want to have people listening to headphones and just hear flag this, blah,
Yeah. or Jake throwing up on his keyboard or something.
So and sometimes like sectors, like sector 1 will be under caution. And if it's extremely minor, that's the only section you have to abide by the caution rules. So sectors 2, 3, whatever the fuck, you can just go full on tits out. Yeah.
And you'll see like in races, you'll see them say like, yellow flag sector 1 or sector 2, and it's either somebody spun off or like there's a piece of debris like off the side of the track, and so a marshal's running out there, but it's not enough to like stop or slow down the race.
Yeah. So a yellow flag is pretty much just a caution. Hey, slow down.
Yeah, slow down. And then
no passing. And
no passing, slow down. There's one more level to that, and that's the double waved yellow. And that's when there's like a more serious accident. Or like a car gets disabled and they got to go out and get it or whatever. That's usually when you get the safety car out there.
Well, double yellow, is that for all sectors or
the whole track? The whole track's got to slow down. Yeah. And that's just the basics of the yellow flag. If you see it, slow down. It's all like NASCAR if you're more familiar with that. Pace car comes out. So if you are coming from NASCAR and getting into this, pace car, safety car, they're like the same thing, but we're calling it the safety car because that's what they call it in Formula 1. Fast car drives around, sets the pace for the cars, so they're maintaining safety.
Looks really slow, but it's still like 70 miles an
hour. They're still cooking along. Yeah.
And that driver that drives the safety car is a GP racer. He's not going slow to go slow. He's going tits out. But the problem is, there is nothing in this world that corners a track like an F1 car. Not even motorcycles can do that.
That's why I always love hearing the drivers bitch about the safety car not going fast enough. It's like, what do you expect, man? It's not an F1 car.
Because they're having like a lackadaisical drive through the daisies, and the guy in the safety car is white knuckling it like on trucker speed,
Right.
And they always make a joke. It's always Burt Mylander, I think is his name. And like usually like on the British broadcast or let's do, they always make the dad joke of like, oh, and Burt Mylander's out there and he's led the most laps of a race, but he's never won because he's been the safety car driver for years.
So moving on with the flags, the next flag we see a lot, especially the last couple of years, is the red flag. So this one's pretty easy. It's an all stop to the session, whether that be practice, quality, or the race itself. Mostly waved after a major accident, but it could also show up due to bad weather. They might also waive this to make clearing the track a little easier if they have to repair a safety wall, but only if the track is undrivable. Notable red. What?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say on a red flag, does that mean everybody dives into the pits on that lap, or
everyone's got to get into the pits on that lap? The track is shut down. And when you're under a red flag, you can change your tires and change parts and stuff, but we'll talk all about that another time. That's a whole other thing you can talk about.
It's like a freebie pass for changing tires and such.
Pretty much. Yeah. And that's the one way you can get through a race without having to do an actual pit stop, is if the red flag happens. Some notable red flag events include when Roman cut his car in half on a part of the track. That is not a fan of Frenchmen, being because Gasly's car caught on fire on the same spot for a different reason.
No shit.
Oh yeah, that was this year.
Yeah. So the next flag we'll talk is the blue flag. This flag basically means get out of the fucking way. It's a flag you don't want to see. It means you're lap or more down from the leader, and the cars that are coming up behind you, you need to let through
because they are lapping you.
Yes, they'll also sometimes show you this if you're exiting the pit lane. If someone's rocketing down the main straight and they might run into you, you might see a little blue flag wave.
You see, I don't know how that's possible, because I've seen so many like little itty bitty fucking last second battles coming out of the pit, somebody coming down trying to get an undercut. Because
they're not telling you to give way, they're telling you that someone's coming up.
Oh, okay.
It's like when you see someone out of the pit lane,
if they're saying
it's
like,
more
hey,
like watch
out
out
to this person.
Yeah.
I never see that.
They do that they do that with another flag, but I'll get to that in a little bit. It's similar, but it's a little slightly different. So green flag, this is one of the easier ones. Start a racing, whether it's lights out, away we go, or if it's after a caution. But basically what it means is we are under normal racing conditions. That's as easy as it gets. The black flag, I got a 6-pack of nothing to do.
Before you say anything about the black flag, I'm about to have a nervous breakdown and my head really hurts. Go on.
What is that?
Well, why is this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's funny. It's funny you said that because I wrote a reference to Black Flag also in my thing.
I was waiting for you to say something about Black Flag, and then
oh, you guys are talking about the band.
Yes.
yeah.
Because I
Dave's over here confused, thinking
Yeah,
we're
it's like,
having medical
we have to stop the
emergency.
podcast.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna what I was saying as you interrupted me was Black Flag. I got a 6-pack and nothing to do.
Nice.
Awesome punk band, Shady Flag
Tonight or something.
Yeah, TV party tonight.
That was
It's an
on a
awesome punk
Futurama episode
man.
for all my Futurama fans out there.
Family man.
Family man. At any rate, it's a great band, but a shitty flag to see. It's disqualification. That flag is waved with the number of the racer getting the disquali. Last seen in 2007 during the Canadian GP when Massa and another driver, I can't remember who it was, they both left the pit lane when the pit lane was under red light. And they got flagged for it. There's been a few before that. Some really weird ones.
Say, didn't Hamilton on a red light smash into the back of Raikkonen when Raikkonen was with Ferrari?
Something like that happened, but it wasn't enough for a black flag.
Yeah,
because that was the last black. Well, according to the article,
he black flagged himself by just he wrecked his car.
I did read one about this one guy. He was racing. He would only race the ones that were near Canada because that's where he lives. So he's only doing like 2 or 3 races a year for Formula One, and he's driving really old cars. And at one point, he was like 30 laps down because he had shitty equipment, and he got black flagged because he was going too slow.
Oh God. This had to have been a long time ago.
It was in the 80s, early 80s, I think, and he was still using gear from like the 1960s. At any rate, so the white flag, a favorite for France. This is a pit lane exit during practice.
Oh, sorry, French listeners.
Got
him.
Got him. So you'll see this a lot during practice mostly, but they'll wave it at the pit lane exit when there's another driver that's doing practice starts. So when you're in practice, free practice, they'll slow down at the pit lane exit and they'll light their tires up just to do like a practice takeoff because they can't do it on track, especially when there's other cars going about. So they'll wave a white flag that says, hey, slow down almost to a stop because there's another car that's, not moving. Then we have the checkered flag, popular with all drivers and ska fans. It means that it's the end of the race. You win. Time for champagne and trophies. There's a few more that you really don't see that often, like the black flag with an orange dot, which means that there's a mechanical issue with your car and you must pit now. You rarely ever see that because the teams are usually pretty on top of getting their cars in if there's something fucked up. But it would be like if someone was dragging a wing and they just refused to come in, they would get the black flag with the red dot or orange dot. Then you have the black and white half and half flag, which is for unsportsmanlike conduct. Mostly you see that with changing position into braking, which is a no-no, or track limits. And then the last one, which I don't think I've ever seen used, is a yellow and red striped flag, which gets waved if there's oil or some other kind of lubricant that's spilled on the track. But I don't think I've ever seen that.
Never seen any of the last couple ones you just said.
Well, so I've seen the black and white flag a couple times, especially a couple years ago when they were doing track limits on the edge of it, but not the orange dot one and not the yellow and red.
I think the yellow and red one kind of falls now into like the yellow and like the double yellows, especially back in Baku, like the second year they raced there. I want to say that was probably 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, because that race, like, there was a lot of, they red flagged that race twice because of stuff on the track. And I feel like if you're going to red flag a race because, I mean, like, let's think, for example, like this last week, a more recent one, like when Mick Schumacher hit the wall during qualifying.
Is that qualifying or practice?
That was qualifying.
Qualifying.
And with them cleaning up everything, I feel like they would have waved like a black and yellow or the yellow and red flag just to clean up his oil, but his wrecked split car was sitting in front of it.
Well, so it's funny because I just remember I did see that flag once and I remember what it was. It was a couple of years ago when they were practicing, and I don't even remember what racetrack it was at. I just remember Max Verstappen gets on the radio and says there's some kind of like dinosaur on the track, and I think it was in Malaysia.
Yeah, there was like a monitor lizard.
Yeah. And
that's right.
They waved that flag, and I think that's what that flag is more for now because of what you were saying, Tyler, how they just clean everything up when they can. It's for animals on the track. Because I remember reading that. So if there's like any kind of woodland creature on the track, they'll wave that flag to show people that, you know,
lizards are not woodland critters. Not at all.
Not here.
Not here.
Yeah, they're desert critters. Like
they can live in a jungle.
I've seen quite a few. I've seen quite a few lizards out here.
Are you in the jungle? Are you in the woods? Is it a
woodland
critter? Like
I'm in the high desert.
You see all like the woodland critters from Disney movies. Is there a monitor lizard at all?
I'm sure I could think of one.
Yeah.
Well, there's that one monitor lizard in the fucking Rescuers Down Under.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't eat my eggs.
All right. And then famous lizards and
her name was Goanna.
Goanna.
Wasn't a Disney movie. Also famous lizards in movies. Mushu. How could we forget about Mushu?
Dragon.
It popped out of the snow like daisies.
Yeah.
One of the greatest lines of any movie ever. Anyway, all right, on to more F1.
Yes, let's get to more questions.
So, do we got more questions?
Yeah.
More questions.
Oh, you're the one with the questions, man.
I'm the one with the questions. I got the questions. All right, I'm gonna pick one random here. Let's see. What do I got? Yeah, I think that's the best one. All right. What is the virtual safety car and how is it different from a regular safety car?
Well, I kind of got like a weak answer to that. I haven't done any research on it, but
your shit's weak, son. Your shit's fucking weak.
So when you have a regular safety car, the safety car comes out, everyone's under caution. There's a lot of stuff that happens I'm not going to get into because I need to do some more research on it, and we'll just do a good chunk of it later. But basically, once the caution's taken care of, like say a car wreck and they got it cleaned up, you still have to wait for that safety car to make it around the track. And if the safety car passes the start finish line, the second they get that car off of the track, the broken one that was in the accident, they have to wait a whole other lap.
Still got to go around with that safety car.
Yes. Now, if you have the virtual safety car, it acts as, so basically the race leaders, the pseudo safety car, they're the one that controls the pace and no one can pass them. But if you are in the first sector and the job is complete, you just turn the virtual safety car off and then you don't have to caution all the way back. And that car, like I said, the first car becomes the pseudo safety car and they can take off whenever they want. Basically.
That's some
pretty interesting moments in past races.
Mm-hmm.
With especially with like a guy like Verstappen who likes to push that person right in front of him just to make the move.
And
but
then
it's funny because it's like Leclerc recently has been in those situations and he has made some really good like restarts to races. I think he's done a great job of putting himself in great position on those restarts.
Yeah. Hamilton's also really good at the restarts.
Well, you see those restarts.
Well, like they play off of Verstappen's like need to be first, and he even on that safety car, he's inching up, just trying to be
right. Well, it's because he doesn't want his dad to, tear the tent down and then
he's bring his cars home. Did you finally listen to that podcast?
Yeah, I did.
What a ride that podcast was.
Just
Jesus.
The quiet ferocity of a dad tearing down a tent because his son got second place.
Dad, we gotta get the car. You go get the car.
Get the fucking car yourself. Funny 8 years old.
No, but it's really fun watching them do like the safety car restart because it's the guy in first place dictates when it's time to go. And I've seen it come down to almost the fucking line. And you just see like all these cars moving and they're still trying to warm their tires up a little bit. And they're getting real scrunched up. And all of a sudden someone takes off. And it always takes the guy in second place half a second to be like, shit, he went. And
you gotta
just
realize
to catch up with them.
that reaction time.
Yep. Sometimes that doesn't always work out for everyone. Let's go to Mugello in, was that 2019, when they had a red flag and then they were restarting the race and then they had another red flag because they all bunched up.
Yeah.
And half the pack went, the back of the pack went too early, and they fucking, I think there was the attrition rate was like 7 or 8 cars that race.
That was nuts that it took them so long. Everyone just like watching them, like the red flag, and just watching all these different onboard cameras. I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, that's a new one.
All right, what's the next question?
All right, on to the next new question.
On to the next.
Let's see. Let's see. We got 2 left.
We're done, and on to the next one.
This one's a tire question, since this is the Tire Preference Podcast.
Tire Preference Podcast.
So,
how many questions should go to Tyler?
I'll field your question. Please lay it on me now.
All right, here we go. How many sets of tires do teams get for a race weekend? I didn't get that.
13. Next question.
13. Next question. Sorry, continue with your question.
All right. So anyway, how many sets of tires do teams get for a race weekend, and what are like the rules surrounding that? Like, why is that a thing?
Anyway, so the breakdown is they get 13 sets of tires for all the practice sessions, qualifying, and the actual race itself. They get 2 sets of hard tires, 3 sets of medium tires, and 8 sets of soft tires. They also get 4 sets of intermediate tires and 3 sets of full wet tires.
Now, this is to start the race weekend, right?
This is the whole race weekend.
The whole race weekend. This is what they get.
Yeah, Friday through Sunday, they get 13 sets of tires. So I know there's different rules with it. Like, like in the race, for example, you have to switch tires at least one time. So if you go, you have to use 2 different compounds in the race. So if you start in the medium, then you have to run the soft. Or if you start in the medium, you have to run the hard. Or whatever. Point is, you have
depending on what your strategy is.
Depending on what the strategy is, yes. What'll change that is if it rains or if there's a red flag.
Because like what you guys said, the intermediates and the like the wet tires don't factor into the.
No. Yeah. If the wet tires and the intermediates come out, then it does not matter. You can start the race on softs, go to intermediates, and finish on intermediates. Or if you run intermediates for 3 laps, then it's whatever. You can run softs for the rest of the race.
Well, just like what was it? Ocon went a whole race on wets or intermediates.
Intermediates, because they started out, it was damp, and
did you
they
see
dried up.
The shot of those tires?
They were pretty much just racing slicks, which I think we already touched on.
I think they were like frayed down to you could see the metal shaving.
Right. Well, when you go fucking, I mean, these tires are not meant to last; they're meant to grip. So
yeah.
So real quick, under a red flag, if it's a red flag condition, you don't have to change tire compounds.
You don't have to if you don't want to. I don't think
so. You're telling me we're on like a nice sunny race day, and I'm on my softs, and we get red flagged. I can put new softs on, and I'm all good.
I believe that'll change it. I have to look into the rules a little bit more. Kind of just scratch the surface on it, but I think if it rains or that comes into play, then like that negates like the rules of having to do at least 1 pit stop.
Yeah, I knew about the rain, but I didn't know about the red flag.
Yeah.
Again, scratch the surface on it.
Sure. Could be wrong. Yeah. Don't fucking kill me over it. All right. So what's next?
What's next? Indeed. So we just went over tires. Scratch that off the list. Okay. So the last question I had for the new guy to the sport is, why different number of laps for each circuit?
I don't know for sure. We'll have to look it up. But if I had to wager a guess, it's probably similar to like what NASCAR does, like with the Daytona 500. It is a 500-mile race. So I think with the Grand Prix, it's
So
a
many
certain number of
kilometers.
miles. Yeah, or kilometers
Whatever
that they have to
yeah.
complete, but they just convert it over to laps because that's a lot cooler than just saying, miles.
Because
Yeah.
I saw the Las Vegas was going to be a 50
Yeah,
50
lap
Yeah.
lap race.
Yeah.
It's almost a 4-mile circuit. The only circuit that's longer than it, I think, is Spa. And Spa's like 4.3 miles.
Really? I thought
Yeah.
it was actually a shorter circuit. So
No.
I'm
It's longer. Yeah.
okay, cool. It just
And that's
a
why you
lot
see
of long straights then, I guess.
the shorter tracks like Monaco is like a 78 lap race, and I
Right.
think it's the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, they also probably factor in runtime too, because unlike a lot of other, well, I don't want to say a lot of other motorsports, but unlike some other motorsports, there's a time limit. It's a 2-hour time limit that can be extended if there's rain, but the limit is 4 hours
or red flags.
or red flag.
Yeah.
Anything over 4 hours in the race just ends, which is like what we saw at Spa last year. So that's probably something to factor into it as well.
All right. So I have no more beginner questions for tonight. So the rookie question segment is over for today.
It's all done and over with. We went through a few things. You got a few answers. Maybe not all.
That's okay.
Not gonna
That's
lie.
okay.
I came in with questions and I came out with answers. So
there you go.
Feel good. Feel good about it.
We will we'll do more of these along the way, like we were saying, on off weeks and stuff if we don't do deep dives. It's always good. I mean, it's always a good refresher, I guess, we'll learn a thing or two, or get reminded of a couple things. So
yeah,
right. Well, I mean, you've been watching Formula One a little bit, not as long as I have, but pretty damn close. And I guess you didn't fully understand the DRS, which is fine. I mean, it's not, none of the shit in Formula One's easy to understand.
Hey, we're all learning things in this.
We're all learning things. I knew
and
that.
You know what? I'll throw a blanket out there. If you're into F1 and you're watching F1 and you don't understand what they're talking about, but you're still enjoying yourself, that's okay. That's the
okay.
best spot to be in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to know everything.
I never understood those hardcore fans are like, well, you don't know all this, then you're not a true fan. Like, fuck off. I don't need to know every player on my team to have my favorite team. Although I do know all my players on my favorite baseball team.
Right.
Dave's the guy in this sport. Anyway. He's like, it's okay to be a casual fan, but every other sport's like, fuck you. If you don't know everyone that plays for the Cardinals, then you can go fuck yourself.
In August, the Yankees are coming to St. Louis to play the Cardinals.
See them?
Although
I am.
I'm gonna go. Yeah. I want to go see. I've got the Cardinals playing the Rockies while we're in Colorado. So
nice.
Yeah,
I missed out on an opportunity to see the Yankees playing the Giants in San Francisco.
Your two favorite teams.
My two favorite teams playing each other.
That would have been dope.
I'm really confused on who to root for.
Plus, San Francisco's got a beautiful stadium. Anywho, this ain't a baseball podcast.
It's not a baseball podcast. It's a Formula One podcast, and like I said, we're gonna sign off.
I'm all done with the questions for today. So we got next week. Australia coming up.
One thing I want to say really quick too is one thing we've been talking about, just the three of us, is kind of being more aware of how we say things. And I'm not talking about being politically correct or making like terrible jokes, because we're gonna do it. I'm talking about being like when we say Verstappen, being like Red Bull driver Verstappen, or instead of saying something like a slang term for it, like or quali, qualifying Q3, qualifying 3, we'll just be a little bit more
mindful of the new listener. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to leave you in the dust or nothing. So
I hear you. Yeah. So be mindful of what we're talking about. Make sure we're speaking to everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because this is a podcast for everyone.
It's for everyone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got a beer in your hand. You want to listen to some yahoos talk about F1?
Right.
For your people.
We are the people here for you to do that. So let's Dave was kind of getting to it. And I think that's a great idea. Let's talk about next week. Actually, let's talk.
Hey,
free practice is in 2 days.
Yeah. Let's talk about this weekend. Back to Australia. First time they've been in Australia since 2019 because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
Was the season opener for a lot of years, and it's a new Albert Park. They've made a few changes. The turns are different.
Actually, I was looking at those changes, and they're not huge, but they are substantial.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No,
they're not major upgrades. They're just all encompassing.
It like they smoothed out the edges, and it's going to make it a faster.
Well, they took out an entire right-hander.
And I don't know if it was just a meme I saw or if it's for real, but are there really going to be 4 DRS zones?
Might be a meme. I think there's only going to be 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw
straight, second straight, and then the last straight.
But there was a 4th DRS zone added this year, so I didn't know if it was real or not. It's hard to judge these days.
Yeah, it is really hard to judge the memes. It could be. I haven't checked that out, but the last time I looked at the Albert Park map, it had 3 DRS zones in it, which was, I think, it just recently added. There's only like 3 or 4 tracks that have 3 DRS zones.
Yeah.
So,
well, either way, it'll be a good fast race. They smoothed out those corners, made it a lot quicker. I think on that, especially I guess what it was. Manhattan up here it was like turn 15 or no 9 and 10. The chicane they smoothed out. Yeah, it's gonna make it a fast race.
Oh yeah,
it's and it's gonna be good. Like I said, it's been 2 years since they've been there. Or not since 2019, and so I'm hoping that McLaren gets it figured out.
Yeah,
there's the
Ricardo
big wreck and like Ricardo gets on the podium or something.
Yeah, something for his home race finally, because he couldn't do it with Red Bull. He couldn't do it with
Renault.
Red Bull.
Renault.
Well, he didn't have a chance to do it with Renault because they didn't have a
Australian
GP that year. Those years.
Yeah, or it wasn't. No, I think in 19 he might have raced there with Renault.
Yeah, and then his fucking wing exploded because he went into the grass.
Yeah, and then 20.
I think everything got
canceled. In 2020, they canceled the race as everyone was there because I was in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so. And then they didn't race there last year, so.
Because they were redoing the track.
It'll be a really good homecoming for Daniel Ricciardo.
So I like to finish him. I like to see him finish top 10, get some points at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Something in front of the home crowd. He's not gonna, unless barring something extraordinary. I don't see him getting a podium. So
trying to do that with the Mercedes engine. So I just think it's going to work out for him.
The best I can hope for Daniel Ricciardo in his home track is points.
Right.
Yeah. I will say the last point of like nostalgia with Australia was the first race of the season, and it started at 10 p.m. like US time, like on the West Coast.
Right.
So it was like, all right, it hits the afternoon. You're like, all right, well, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. And then at 10 o'clock, I'm going to switch over to beers. And you're like sitting on the couch, like trying to like stay awake for like the last couple laps of the race.
Yeah, I remember getting up to like going to bed and then waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch races.
Yeah, that's like more dedication than I'm going to have.
Well, you have the F1 app now, so you don't.
I have the app, so I can watch it at my leisure. So
you want to do? You want to do predictions?
Predictions for next week? Yep. Australia GP, first time since 2019.
Yep. All correct.
Who wants to lead us off?
I'll go first, I suppose. I think Leclerc's going to win. I think they're going to look at how they were lacking with Red Bull, and I think that they're going to be able to take the data they get and really do something impressive with their vehicles. And I think there's going to be a lot of good racecraft from Leclerc, like we've been seeing, especially with the home straight DRS zone. the 2 turns, and then you have another DRS zone. I think that we're going to see a lot of great things from him. Max Verstappen's a very competitive race car driver. He's really good, but I don't know if he can immediately switch over from being hyper aggressive. I mean, we saw him do it in the last race, but I think he's going to be
a little bit.
I think he's going to be hyper aggressive again. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he's going to go in there not hyper aggressive.
He's still all about taking that chance, getting that. He sees a spot, he's going to fucking go for it.
Oh yeah.
So he's going to have to show serious restraint to stay competitive with Ferrari for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
because I mean, he's an amazing driver. We all know that. He's willing to take the chances. I mean, the guy's gutless. Gut full. The guy,
he got guts.
He's crazy. So
he doesn't want to come back to the paddock and see his dad packing the tent up.
He's gonna take those dives that not a lot of other drivers are gonna take. So like that's a factor you kind of got to throw in with Red Bull.
The X factor.
You have a driver who's borderline insane, and he's gonna take those chances. And with that car, I mean, they've got a serious chance to be a huge thorn in Ferrari's side.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a Ferrari 1-2. At worst, they'll split the podium. Max Verstappen being up there. I don't see Mercedes doing anything. George Russell might finish pretty good. But I think that we Ferrari 1-2. And I'm going to go
do a wild prediction too.
Yeah, I was just getting to that. I think my wild card prediction is going to be both Haas's making to Q3, so in the start in the top 10, and I think that K-Mags is going to finish in the top 5 somewhere.
Oh, that's a solid wild card.
All right,
I'll go with mine. Yeah. I also see a Ferrari 1-2, but I'm gonna stick with my boy Sainz on this one. He's hungry. He wants that win. He wants that first win in F1. He wants that first win with Ferrari. He wants to prove himself, not just a number 2 driver. I think this is the race. We're gonna see a strong start from on the weekend. And quali, I don't see him getting pole or anything.
Right.
I see in the race him fighting his ass all the way up, winning it, and we'll go with Leclerc a short 2 behind, maybe a couple tenths of a second, something quick, but long shot. The
wild card.
Latifi will finish the race.
Wow, that's a great wild card.
Wow, yeah.
No, I'm gonna go a step above.
For the sake of my fantasy team, I fucking hope he does too.
He's gonna finish the race at wild card P15 or higher.
Well, yeah, he'd have to actually finish a race to do that.
Well, it's a stretch just to get him to finish, and I'm gonna give him benefit of the doubt and say I think he might be able to make it to P15. So that's my wild card.
Given some
Latifi's actually, I should just go with the wild card is Latifi's gonna finish the fucking race.
There you go.
That's funny.
But I'm gonna go Latifi finishes top 15.
Nice. Let's see. Mine, I think that yes, to play off what you were saying with Carlos Sainz being hungry, but let's not forget Spanish-speaking hungry people.
Well, I also said Carlos is going to be hungry on the last 2 races, and it didn't pan out. So,
well, he was hungry enough to finish.
I'm just going to keep saying it until he gets on the fucking top spot.
Right.
I think that Sergio Perez is going to do really well again this weekend. I think he might. Well, I'm not going to say this is my wild card, but I think he might do a little better than Verstappen in qualifying.
Well, let's hope so. He's my fantasy number 1 driver.
Yeah. I'm thinking podium will be Verstappen, Perez, Sainz. I'm going Red Bull.
No Leclerc on the podium at all.
Ooh. No Leclerc on the podium at all. Wild card, I'm thinking bad calls with pit stop and a yellow flag, and then I think Hamilton gets first place after a lackluster weekend. I think that they're going to be far enough, or maybe not Hamilton, and maybe Russell on the podium.
Yeah, George.
They're going to have, I would say, maybe lackluster performance in qualifying and practice, but they just get something right with the pit stops and a well-timed flag, no matter what it is, and then Russell gets on.
And that's George Russell, who races number 2 driver for Mercedes. For all you,
yes, George Russell,
and
from Williams.
I'm gonna say, is that your wild card? That's your wild card.
That's my wild card. Yeah.
Honestly, that's not that wild.
I think. All right, fine.
No,
let's try this one.
No, I didn't.
Going into turn one, there's a fucking 18-car pileup, and Daniel Ricciardo wins the race, and fucking
Latifi comes in
Pierre
second.
Gasly's 20 goddamn seconds behind him in second place.
Only thing I meant,
and they're the only 2 drivers that finish the race.
All right.
There's a 3-hour-long red flag, and they race to half distance to get half points.
All right. So what was your original prediction? I messed that all up.
My original wild card prediction is Red Bull 1-2, and with Carlos Sainz third place. My wild card prediction is Mercedes plays the pit stop strategy right, and George Russell's on the podium. Not Hamilton. All right. George Russell.
All right, gents. So
close it out.
I think it's about time to close it out. This has been the Tire Preference Podcast.
Let's not close it out just yet. Let's hype our socials and
I was getting to that.
Plug ourselves.
I was getting to that. Just gotta give me a second. So yeah, this is the Tire Preference Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Preference Pod. You can find us on YouTube, which is the only way you can find us right now. At the Tire Preference Podcast. Is that what it is? Preference Podcast?
Tire Preference Podcast.
Tire Preference Podcast. You can follow Dave and his wife's adventures on Featuring Friday on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram. I actually have my handle up so I can say it right for once. _red_Kennedy45. And my Twitter handle, I think, is the Red Kennedy 45 or something along those lines. You'll find me on there. You can follow Tyler.
I do not have a Twitter. I do have an Instagram. You can follow me at t.k.66@hotmail.com for lackluster Twitter or lackluster Instagram content. But I am there.
Yep,
that's where he is. You'll find him there.
When you find us on YouTube, make sure you give us a like and you subscribe, because it really helps us out, helps spread the brand. And you know what? Here's some homework. Go tell a friend. Just tell one friend. Tell them they don't even have to listen to the damn thing. Just subscribe and play it on the background on mute. Just something we need some more views. We just need to get our name out there a little bit. And the Rubber Army, you guys, the skid marks, they will
skid marks out there.
You'll get it out there.
Yeah, the skid marks of the Rubber Army are going to spread this like wildfire.
I think the Rubber Army, but the skid marks are like our special forces.
That's right. I like that. Congratulations, you have been elevated to skid mark level.
We have a Patreon level. If you do $100 a month, you get the skid mark badge.
Yeah, we're gonna refer to you as the skid mark.
Right. All right. Well, we will catch you guys next week after the race concludes. We'll have a race roundup, talking about it, all that fun stuff, and we'll give you an update on our fantasy league, how that's going, and we'll do predictions for the next race.
All right.
Good job, fellas.
Have a good one. I'm going to go ahead and say keep it within the track limits. Oh, and happy birthday, Gunter. It's Gunter Steiner's birthday today. So
hey,
happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday to our spirit animal.
He's our spirit animal.
Happy fucking birthday.
Happy fucking birthday, Gunter Steiner.
Yeah. So if anyone knows Gunter Steiner, we'd love to have him on the show. He's our spirit animal. He's what helps us when we're in times of stress. I just think about, like, if I hate stuff at work, what he would say. He's like, these fucking wankers, just so terrible.
I used to think I fucking swear a lot, and then I heard Gunther Steiner start swearing.
Yeah.
I was like,
There's
that's
a
a
reason
new
he's the
level.
most talked to person on Drive to Survive.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, well, like I said, keep within the track limits.
All right. Later, fuckers.
Love y'all. How does that factor into how they race? I guess.
I didn't dig too much into the rules, but the breakdown was they get 13 sets of tires for a week.
Hold on one second. Dave, you are a fucking savage. You're ripping them out the both times. I know that, like, you keep looking over at your wife. So I know you're hammering them.
She's like,
barrels hot over on that side. You live in a fucking trailer, all right?
Yeah.
What the hell is your problem?
I saw him
Fucking
crack
animal.
the window behind. It's his current the only ventilation in his trailer right now is the window cracked open and fucking inch behind him.
Yeah,
I'm
and they're
punishing
being propelled
all
by
who
the
live
hot
in here.
gases out of fucking Dave. He's getting like Coors farts and fucking guacamole sitting on beer.